is breathing that night and day. And then the three-letter words come from another word, from the same root of ظَلِمَ يَظْلَمُ, mean to obscure, to be the reason for darkness and gloominess and the absence of light and enlightenment. So this messenger, like all the messengers, they didn't have an ordinary mandate. Their mandate was to their community, because the community of the Prophet was overwhelmed with oppression, with injustices, with the confiscation of human rights, with the exploitation of the weak, with the embezzlement of the human assets. And therefore, there can be no assimilation of any divine message if it does not confront the cancers of human society, the cancers of human depression, of human gloominess, where facts and truth and enlightenment are obscured, and thus the room to exploit people and to enslave them and dehumanize them and oppress them. So the message of every messenger had a social content. You and I cannot say, quote unquote, to use the cliche, that we are practicing religion or we are religious by what? My relationship to the divine message and the divine dispenser and the messenger of that is assessed in how much of darkness I have moved away from and how much of enlightenment I am caressing. And that's something that you and I need to do and assess for ourselves on a regular basis. So the messenger was told, your job is to extricate your community from all manner of darkness. This is a figure of speech. It doesn't mean if they didn't have light. Darkness, dhulumat, is an expression that covers the darkness that is the result in human lives because of following values or principles or practices that decays the human society or degenerates the human society. And each messenger had a responsibility to lead their people to where? To light. Today, these challenges remain on top of the list for Muslims. Because if you go to Muslim communities, you will not only see physical darkness, economic darkness, political darkness. You will not only see economic slavery, you will not only see economic exploitation, you will not only see economic and political and social marginalization of different people, but you will see oppression and exploitation. And you would feel that Islam, by those who preach it, and those who rule by it, and those who live in its precincts, would be a people who are liberated. And if that is the state with us, you could imagine what a chance do we stand to enhance our backyards, our neighborhoods, or the surrounding areas. To some people, the message of prophets is for the practice of certain rituals, even though they don't understand them, and even though they don't produce dynamic results in their lives. And these continue abounding. You can see in any community of religious people whether it is Muslim, whether it is Hindus, whether it is Christians, whether it is Buddhists, the rituals continue unabated. They have their different way of doing that, and each one feel, we are better. We are doing the right thing. But what is surprising is that in none of these communities, their religion is associated with emancipation of human beings without borders. None of these communities can say that the religion we follow is directly synonymous with human emancipation, with human justice, with human fairness, with human upliftment, with human enlightenment, with the rise of humanity. No doubt there are exceptions in every community, but unfortunately the exception is not the rule. So this beloved Prophet came and he taught us that in the society of Makkah there was a kind of people who were called kafirs. And I told you, if you were to take a survey of Muslims, the majority have the impression that a kafir is somebody who is not within us, right? So somebody who does not subscribe to what we generally subscribe to in Canada or all over the world is considered a kafir. And as you will recall, I have shown you from the Qur'an and the Arabic language that the Qur'an doesn't present that message. The Qur'an presents a more loftier, more sublime, more intelligent and more practical message to us. That kufr is a weakness of the mind. Kufr is a weakness of the mind, is a disease of the mind. Because the Qur'an is a masterpiece of human psychology. It is a masterpiece of divine history about the human mind, how the human mind behaved, and the behavioral patterns of people throughout history. What was the mind of the messengers like? What were the behaviors of the messengers of Allah like? What were the mindset of their communities like? What were the behaviors of their communities like? And why? Because we are living in an age, and in every age, the most important value in the human personality is the mind. If we allow emotions to rule our lives, we will soon find out what a wrong step that is. Now, emotions are very important. But you ask the biologists, you ask the sociologists, you ask the average human being who say, and they will even tell you, we see with the mind, we hear with the mind, we feel with the mind. So you can imagine if the mind is deaf or dumb, figuratively speaking, the mind cannot interpret things, then although these eyes might have light coming into them, the brain cannot interpret anything. Think of that from the point of view of the divine message. How long we have had the divine message at our doorsteps? What kind of light do we receive? And what interpretation our minds give to it? So, what the Qur'an told me and told you, and the Arabic language is the language of the Qur'an. Anytime anybody wants to study, they want to discuss, they want to compare and contrast. English is not the language of the Qur'an. Urdu is not the language of the Qur'an. French is not the language of the Qur'an. I agree with you. It is in the interest of the Urdu-speaking person, the English-speaking person, the Bengali-speaking person, the Afrikaans speaking person to do what?